He put this engine to our ears, which made an incessant noise like that of a watermill. And we conjecture it is either some unknown animal or the god he worships. But we are more inclined to the latter opinion, because he assured us, if we understood him right, for he expressed himself very imperfectly, that he seldom did anything without consulting it. He called it his oracle, and said it pointed out the time for every action of his life. I've confessed it many times on this channel already, but I'm quite big on productivity, time management, making the most of your day. I've been like that for as long as I can remember. My obsession with time started as a kid when I got my first alarm clock with a laser projection onto the wall. I wouldn't sleep well because I kept staring at the projection, calculating how much I had left before waking up to go to school. My worst, or my peak, depending on what you think about toxic productivity, was when I started my law degree. Actually, I see that time period in a negative way because my obsession with time became so bad that it actually triggered some sort of anxiety and really hurt my social life. I would take the train early, I would go to the library, I would study there for an hour or two before classes started. I would also work in the lecture hall, waiting for the professor to come in instead of socializing with my friends. I would learn the notes I was taking whenever the teacher would take a break or ramble. Sometimes I would have learned the lesson before it actually ended, and if I didn't manage to do so, then I would ride my bike to the train station and revise in my head on the way. Then I would work again in the train, etc. And so when I was back home, I only had a little bit of work left, while most of my friends would work till, 8, 9 p.m. You know how law studies work. At some point I realized that I would have to sacrifice more time to studying, etc. if I wanted to remain among the top students. And so I decided to change path. Bear in mind that given my predispositions, I fell deep into self-help, reclaim power over your life, yada yada, and so the idea of doing a 9-to-5 for the rest of my life was getting scarier to me. So I switched to humanities. English literature and history degree, followed with a master's. The more relaxed schedule allowed me to have a part-time job, to have hobbies, and to start a YouTube channel. Today I'm still very much into productivity. Honestly, I wouldn't have been able to have a YouTube channel if I wasn't, but I've also learned how to relax. It's okay to do nothing every now and then. I've always been left-leaning, so I've always advocated for shorter work weeks, time for leisure, holidays, and a f***ing workers' revolution. My studies also helped me deconstruct a lot of things to understand the structures above the individual and why everything we do is pretty much already determined. So today I want to share with you my observations on our collective obsession with time. I want to go a little bit deeper than the conversations we regularly hear, we regularly have, and offer a new approach. So if you're ready, well, maybe just one word from my sponsor today and we'll be good to go. The Guardian is kindly sponsoring this video. They have given a platform to political commentators, scholars that I look up to, like Ash Sekar, Owen Jones, Dan Foster, David Graeber. So of course I don't always agree with their analysis, but as many video essayists, I've been relying on The Guardian as a high-quality and trustworthy source of information, especially on things like climate change and international policies. What I want to talk to you about today is The Guardian Weekly. It gathers the most engaging and relevant articles already published, and it has this unique feature that I really like, called the Global Report, where you get an overview of what's been going on in the world in the past week. It's been really helpful for me to, get my weekly dose of, what's going on in the world. Everything is very well organized, and you've got this very cool feature called Spotlight. Yeah, I really like this article in particular. It's on authoritarian governments around the world and how they shut down web pages, internet communication as a method of control. I think I read that a week ago, and just look at what's going on in Iran. Anyway, The Guardian is committed to keeping its reporting open to all readers, no shareholders, no billionaire owner. So if you'd like to support The Guardian and get your hands on those Guardian Weekly issues, all you have to do is go and click on the link in the description box, because I have a very cool offer for you. Thank you The Guardian for sponsoring the video, and now let's go back to it. Let me start with a question. How many devices around you can tell you what time it is? For me, it's 3. Computer here, the watch here, my phone is over there. Oh, and 4 actually, also my Kindle. So yeah, we clearly live in a society. That was a joke, a bad one, I'll admit. hustle culture, toxic productivity. These are topics that come back every now and then on social media. What they have in common is an obsession with time, the use of time as a measurement for success. Those communities are unsurprisingly overrepresented by men, the providing, career-driven gender, at least that's how men are socialized. A watch, as an example, is a man's essential. French businessman Jacques Seguela declared in 2017 that if you don't own a Rolex at age 50, that means you failed at life. When I typed on Google why men wear watches, I found the following answer. Wearing a watch reflects a man's attitude towards time, which is one of the qualities for success. It reminded me of one of the passages of rockstar feminist Annie Ernaux's book that Mona Chollet quoted in this one. Je ne portais pas ma montre, il conservait la sienne. So I wasn't wearing a watch, he kept his. The story is that of a woman, a single mother, who has an affair with a married man. The man has a watch, he cannot stay with her forever, he has obligations, but she has obligations too. She's a writer, a teacher, a mother. The difference between the two is that the woman is more likely to give up time for love, whereas the man cannot let love disrupt his schedule. The management of time, a quality of modern men. By modern I mean the post-industrial revolution men, not the modern men that clean the house, is clearly the best power one can have because time is understood as a currency. Like money, it can be saved, wasted, invested. Others also say that it's the great equalizer. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. You see, we have a lot of things to deconstruct today, and the best way to start is to look at how and when time became so trendy, so controversial, so political. I'll start by saying that an interconnected world as the one we have today, we live in today, needs a set of common measurements in order to communicate. This video isn't a call to abolish time, I'm too obsessed with it. What I do here on YouTube is that I ask questions. I give new approaches, new ways of looking at things happening in society, and also the people who don't like me say that I'm an agent of the authoritarian left, or that I hurt social cohesion, but you get to decide. Anyway, so now let's look at how time became a thing. Babylonians were the first ones to divide the day into 12 hours, an idea that was reused by the Greeks and the Romans. Then medieval societies made sure that time coincided with prayers. The life of medieval people was in fact regulated by the church. The sound of the bells was a reminder that God was looking after them. That's cute, but maybe there's another way to look at it. In fact, historians have shown that the church exerted control to maintain a power imbalance so that peasants do not rebel and continue to pay taxes. Time as a regulating force naturally became a key characteristic of Western societies. Greenwich in London became time zero, the west of the world would be GMT plus or GMT minus. In other words, the UK became the center of the world. The clock system served to establish set working days, to develop the transportation sector, to discover the new world, to conquer space, or to make sure that you're exactly 5 minutes late to your date so that you look like such a busy and independent person. Clocks in general became symbols of modernity, order, and therefore power. Researcher Giordano Nanni said every town had its clock steeple as a symbol of its status and its modernity. In other words, its power. Actually, we can use the word power, but we could also use the word political. Time is political. In France, after the revolution in 1789, the National Convention replaced the Gregorian calendar, the calendar we all use, by the Republican calendar, aimed at opposing the influence of the church in state politics and asserts France's republican secularism. You see, taking power over time is a political act. During the colonial expansion of Western powers, the political aspect of the management of time became ever more relevant. Indigenous peoples had different notions of time based on the positions of the sun, moon, or stars, ideas that demarcated days, divisions of the year and seasons in larger different ways. It was partly by interrupting the cycles of indigenous and local seasons and calendars and replacing them with the colonizers' rituals and routines, along with a new calendar for counting the days, months and years, that heavens were visibly Christianized and that idle hands were put to productive work. Missionaries, settlers and colonial officials adopted different means while also pursuing different ends in their attempt to reform the world and its inhabitants. Imposing a time discipline to the Aborigines of Victoria or the various African people of Southern Africa also aimed at increasing their value in the colonial economy. Protestant missions, particularly those with a Calvinist theology, promoted the character-forming value of time discipline and almost went back to medieval practices where the bells marked out the day. I thought about making this video at the beginning of this year after I went to a small conference at King's College in London where British women with African or South American origins explored indigenous arts, representations, and one of the women started talking about how the constraints of Western time calendars and seasons had impacted their community's rituals and cohesion. That was the second time I thought about all of this. You know, we very easily forget that time is actually a social construct. The first time I thought about it was when I was introduced to the works of French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu, who researched and wrote extensively on the Kabyle community in Algeria in the 1950s. In his reports, he shows that the peasants have a very different approach of time. They don't want to master it, they don't want to save it. Haste is a proof of diabolical ambition. The clock is called the devil's mill. They don't have any regular meal times. They don't do set appointments, but rather say, let's just meet at the next market. That sounded absolutely radical to me. When you're so used to something, you even forget to question it. Clocks, it is often forgotten, do not keep the time, but a time. We can suppose that the exploitation of indigenous, colonized people and the destruction of their mode of living was inspired by the exploitation of workers in Western industries. I remember studying Modern Times at school. In it, Charlie Chaplin denounced the sensation of alienation felt by workers because of Taylorism, basically a system that breaks the manufacturing process in specialized repetitive tasks. The clock, the gear, were symbols of alienation. I also remember that scene when the mass of workers go to the plant, a scene that Charlie Chaplin compared to a herd of sheep. In his landmark book, Discipline and Punish, Michel Foucault examined how we have transferred from a society where power comes from the sovereign, the emperor, to a society where power is exerted through a form of internalized discipline. So a society that looks super liberal and free on paper, but in which we check on each other. We discipline each other. Time is an essential component of this new type of society. From the timetable, the bell ringing at the end of each class, the amount of calories you burn during that 20 minutes workout. Time management ensures productivity, which helps creating value. But who benefits from that discipline? Who gets the value? Well, in my case, I could say that being productive serves me. I'm my own boss, so the value directly goes to me. But that would go against what I've been preaching on this channel since the very beginning, namely that if we want to better understand the world, the sociology and psychology of human beings, we must detach ourselves from an individualist approach and look at the structures that organize and regulate people. So if I'm more productive and make more videos, I'm going to get more money from ad revenue. But YouTube is also going to make more money. They get 55% of the grand total. And true, they provide a platform and sometimes recommend my videos to people, but is it really worth 55%? Another example, you could say that you spend an hour every 2 weeks with a therapist, but the thing is that 70% of the things you talk about with that therapist is related to work. You realize that without those therapy sessions, you cannot work at that place you hate so much. So you are taking away some of your free time and financial resources to make sure that you can continue to work there and to create value there. So you are indirectly serving your boss. Last example, you eat healthy, you work out, you say you do it for yourself, which is fine, I do it too, but know that it increases your productivity and therefore also benefits the company you work at. I'm not saying that we need to stop going to therapy, working out, or being productive. I personally advocate for it more than anything, but I think it's good to understand that it's not just benefiting you. And yes, you could say that I failed to see the bigger picture, that providing value for a company also keeps the economy going, so it benefits society as well. I totally see your point there, but what is value to you? Is it just a bigger GDP? Economic growth? Then yes, we all benefit society and investors take the biggest share of it. My vision of what value means is different though, and our current economic system doesn't allow it to flourish because profits and narcissistic interests always come first. I said earlier that the goal of this video isn't to advocate for the abolition of time. I did that because I know a lot of people get scared with discussions of abolition. Nevertheless, I want to end this video with the story of Somaro. Let me read you an extract from the article. The Somaro time-free zone campaign is like some sort of philosophical idealist dream. Finally, we'll be able to prove that one of the basic categories structuring what we call reality is in fact completely made up. But what is it that residents of Somaro want to abolish exactly? Quote, all over the world, people are characterized by stress and depression. self-feeding as stated. In many cases, this can be linked to the feeling of being trapped, and here the clock plays a role. We will be a time-free zone where everyone can live their lives to the fullest. Our goal is to provide full flexibility. Fedin said, if you want to cut the loan at 4 AM, then do it. Fedin and I'll want to abolish not the movement of time, but the association of this movement with the clock, the time of Greenwich Mean Time. Society has only been ruled by the clock for the past 2 centuries, a Norwegian philosopher of time told The Guardian in regards to Sommerøy. Before that, you worked mostly as long as it was necessary. You ate food when you were hungry and you lay down when you were tired. In modern society, everything we do is controlled by the pace of the clock, from the moment we get up. Sommerøy's quest to abolish time must provide us with an occasion for reflection. How might we, or the we that does not live on an island in or near the Arctic Circle, remake our own time? So yeah, I'd love to know what are your thoughts on this one. And if one of you dare to say that this story lacks common sense, I'm gonna get really mad. I'm telling you. You can be a pragmatic and an idealist at the same time. This is called being progressive. We wouldn't be there, humanity wouldn't be there without idealists. So yeah, I'm in their team. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, we can continue the discussion in the comment section. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, if it's not done already. I would like to thank The Guardian for sponsoring this video, a big thank you to my Patreons, and a special thank to Carla, Michel, Sam, Manuel, Perry, Benjamin, Alex, Paul, Jay, and Oswald. Other than that, well, I'll see you very soon. Salut!